What is going on? It is Obscurist Tourist here once again, and today I'm going to visit a place that I have driven by hundreds, if not thousands of times in all of my years living in Toronto and in Brampton. And if you've lived in Toronto or currently do, you certainly have driven by this place, especially if you've gone northwest of Toronto. And it's the Richview Memorial Cemetery. And what a strange place it is, and an even stranger location. Let's go. And it almost looks like you're in the countryside down a back road, finding the entrance way to Richview. But if you just peek over here, there it is. I drove by that about 4 or 5 times before finally getting it right, because if you miss that turnoff, there is a long way to go before you can turn around again. And fortunately for us today, the gates were open. We could come in and take a peek. The location of Richview Memorial Cemetery seems like a very odd place for a graveyard to be. And if you've ever driven by it, it certainly is a strange sight. Nestled in the middle of the massive interchange of highways 401 and 427, this heritage site stands calmly amid the traffic chaos surrounding it and provides the final resting place for members of Western Etobicoke's pioneer farming families. So let's get into the history of this place and how it came to actually be located here. Though burials were made on site as early as 1846, Richview wasn't officially a graveyard until the Union Chapel was completed around 1853. According to a historical plaque just over there, farmer William Nags, who is actually buried here somewhere, sold the land that became the cemetery. The church moved south of the cemetery in 1888 and remained there until the nearby stretch of Highway 27 was converted into an expressway during the 1950s. While the church relocated west of the future Highway 427, cemetery trustees resisted calls to move the graveyard, which led to its bizarre present-day positioning. The site was filled out with even more remains during the 1970s, as graves were moved from 2 other former Etobicoke cemeteries. Around 300 people are estimated to be buried in Richview, of which only 90 have markers, and it must be noted that only descendants of those resting here can buy plots. The most recent burial here was Victor Kimber, who maintained the grounds of the cemetery for over 40 years before he died in 2005. These are the gates entering Richview, and from what I've read, they are almost always closed. Even though it's so visible, it is quite a difficult place to get to. Many people over the years have used it as sort of a garbage dump, but it seems like it's being taken better care of lately. We can get in there and take a look for ourselves. Just beyond this tree is another plaque, a cairn, which has been erected to commemorate the lives and services of those pioneers who continue to live through the accomplishments of their children. Several tombstones provide glimpses into the lives of those buried below them. Take Elizabeth Coulter, who passed away at age 22 in November 1852. Though her marker is missing a few pieces, enough remains to hint at the pain surrounding her passing. Affliction sore long time I bore, physicians were in vain, till God was pleased to send me home and free me of my pain. Repent in time, make no delay, I in bloom was called away. A few more tombstones. This one knocked over some years back. Can't quite get a date on that one. You can just see how close highway right there. And just on that side, let's see, 427. And just over in the corner here, 3 tombstones. The oldest tombstones and the first burials here at Richview. Thomas Garbutt, who died at age 36 on March 24th, 1846. George Nags, who died on May 9th, 1849. And of course, the man who first sold this land, William Nags, who died on June 22nd, 1858. I found this little tombstone, just a little guy, a little bigger than my hand. It says WK, and perhaps that is the original tombstone that was here for William Nags, seeing as his bigger one is right behind. Just over here, a grave marker more than a tombstone, but a big one nonetheless, buried somewhat in the ground, and I cannot read any names on that. Washed away through many rainstorms and winters. Some damage to this tombstone of Joseph Davis, who's been buried here since November 14th, 1865. There's another gravestone here. So damaged over the years that there's absolutely no writing legible. In fact, I think I see the name Mary, right on the middle right there, but that's about the only thing that I can make out. A few more markers. A few more tombstones. Damage. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find any tombstones here that aren't damaged. Richard Garbutt and Anne Garbutt buried atop one another in 1864 and 1873, respectively. Another weather-damaged and perhaps exhaust-damaged tombstone. No legible writing to find out who is buried there. The first pioneers, most of them anyway. I keep thinking that these perhaps are grave markers, but I think they are gravestones that are just fallen over decades ago and slowly sinking into the ground. At least one family name is recognizable. This one here, if only because of the Etobicoke road named after them, Dixon. Is the father, John Dixon, mother, Eliza Pearson, and John, little John. He wasn't so little. He died at 50 years old on January 18th, 1891. Here's a plaque commemorating the Willow Grove burying ground, for which some of the graves here were relocated from, including the Dixons. In fact, 110 bodies were removed and reinterred in the southern end of Richview Cemetery back in 1970. Just over here is quite the memorial to John Mcfarland. I'm not sure what you'd call this in burial terms. Looks like a table, but it's not a table. John Mcfarland died on March 1st, 1778. Another tombstone from the Nags family. In fact, I think this whole right portion of the cemetery is dedicated to the Nags family. This one is for Clifford, who died in 1958. I saw this hidden away in the corner over here, and looks perhaps like it is some parts, some broken parts from an old tombstone. Who knows where they could have come from, somewhere in here, or who was buried underneath them. But I saw this, which I found very fitting of this cemetery as a whole. A little broken ceramic angel lost its wing. And the last tombstones I'm looking at here are from the Kimber family, and one in particular is from Victor Kimber. I told you earlier, this was the old groundskeeper of Richview and the last person to be buried here back in 2015. Rest in peace, Victor. Well, I gotta say, that was pretty exciting. I have long been wanting to know the story behind this place, and I hope, well, I learned, you learned something. So the next time you're driving on the 427, headed to the airport, or just headed somewhere out of the city onto the 401, now you know what this place is, the Richview Memorial Cemetery. Don't forget, these are our first settlers. For now, it's Obscurist Tourist saying so long, stay safe, and most importantly, stay beautiful. Until next time.